Welcome back, guys. This week, part 3 of your identity. We're talking about your boundary. It's the endpoint of your psychology. It's how you interact with the world. It's the most visceral aspect of your psychology. The two most common questions I get from guys are, how do I deal with rejection? How do I not let this rejection bother me? This girl ghosted me. How do I deal with this? And the other question is, how do I not compare myself to other people, specifically other guys? And they want a technique. Everybody wants a quick technique to fix this, but there is no technique. The technique is you develop your boundary, which we're going to talk about in this video. The recap, though: decisions, your intuition and your ethics, your mind, your conscious and your subconscious, we reconcile these. That's how we master these. We see our intuition as ethical, our ethics as intuitive. We bring the subconscious conscious by confronting our anxiety, asserting our anger, our unconscious baggage. We bring it up, we become aware of it, and we do something constructive with it. This is all the same thing. It's just different representations of the same thing. We can think about it on a mind level, a decision level, or an emotional level. But what we're ultimately doing is making our unconscious conscious and making that consciousness useful. And another way to represent this process is with the boundary. Every decision we make, specifically every conscious decision we make, makes a wall, or it makes our boundary firmer. Not a wall necessarily. It makes a firmer boundary. Our likes, our dislikes. I like eating this food. This is my morning routine. This is what I want to do with my life. This is how I spend my free time. This is how I sleep. This is how I do everything. We make conscious decisions, and it creates a firmer boundary through which we can interact with the world in a more mature way. Kind of a complicated thing, or it's difficult to wrap your mind around. Ironic, it's the most visceral part of our psychology, but it's not visceral. It's not that palpable to us. So I'm going to tell you a story from, of course, a patient of mine. His name's Conan. When he was a child, his village was ransacked by Thulsa Doom. That's how you know he's a bad guy. His name's Thulsa Doom. Doom kills his mother, kills his father, actually takes Conan's father's sword and decapitates Conan's father with his own sword. And Conan, he's a child. He's a child psychologically. He can't do anything. He's there. He's mesmerized. He's hypnotized by Thulsa Doom and the images that he sees. He doesn't have a strong boundary, right? So Conan's sold into slavery. He goes and works at a mill. And nobody really knows what the mill does. It was just a big wheel in the middle of the desert, but it was called the Wheel of Pain. So you know that Conan went through some pain, became stronger because of his pain, right? And then becomes a gladiator. He's a good gladiator, kills a lot of dudes, wins his freedom, becomes friends with an archer, has sex with an Amazonian woman, crucified. He tries to defeat Thulsa Doom before he's ready. He gets caught, and he's crucified on the tree of woe. He dies, curses his god Crom, comes back to life, rejoins forces with the Amazonian woman and the archer, and he's able to confront Thulsa Doom in a good way this time. Doom tries to mesmerize him. Doom tries to mesmerize Conan like he did when Conan was a child, psychologically. But he can't do it. He's not affected by it because now Conan, by going through all these ordeals, he's put in situations where he has to make these sorts of decisions where the unconscious, he looks at his fears and that unconscious becomes conscious. Now he has an identity. The mesmerization technique doesn't work on Conan anymore. He takes his father's sword back, decapitates Doom with that sword, and all of Doom's cult followers are freed. And what's Conan doing? Just creating his identity. He's going through these ordeals to become conscious, to make the unconscious conscious. That the girl's ghosting you, that she's not texting you back. You're afraid of rejection. And you want a technique. The technique is to crucify yourself. To take on an unbelievably large burden, crucify yourself, die, curse your God, and come back to life. Do it over and over again every 4 days. And then the girl ghosts you. she doesn't text you back, whatever it happens to be, it doesn't matter. Because you got this going, you got your own thing going. The word I hear a lot from guys who don't have a strong boundary is unfair. This is entitlement. Things should be one way. I should have this sort of boundary, but I don't. It's not unfair. You just haven't managed your inner resources enough. You haven't confronted enough anxiety, asserted enough anger. You're not mothering yourself enough. You're not fathering yourself enough. You're not making enough decisions. Ask, what is it about me that I need to build up, or what do I need to build up about me so I can get my boundary met, so I can get my needs met. Again, it's just all different ways of saying the same thing. And dishonest. A lot of dishonesty with guys who don't have a strong boundary because they're trying to pretend like they have an identity that they don't have. But the more you work on yourself, the more you make these sorts of decisions, get good at rejection. Yeah, you get good at rejection. And you get strong enough, you get your boundaries strong enough to the point where you actually seek rejection out. Because why wouldn't you? It's just information from the environment. It's information that comes in as it's perhaps painful, but it's information. And all it's going to do is make you smarter, build up your inner resources, and all it's going to do is strengthen your boundary to make it that much more likely that you're going to handle rejection better in the future. You have a problem with rejection? You have a problem comparing yourself with others? Get your own life going and get rejected even more. But what we're ultimately doing when we're building a boundary, the end result is inner locus of control. This is what we're ultimately building up. We are a cause on the environment, not an effect. This is the one way. If insurance policy against living a life that ends up being a tragedy is you cultivate an inner locus of control. But it's not one decision you make. It's not, I'm going to start seeing myself as a cause, not an effect. Doesn't work like that. You got to make a bunch of little decisions over and over, and after 3.5 years, eventually you will start to see yourself as somebody who is more of a cause than an effect. But you have to understand the process of your psychology to do this. You have to understand how your emotions work. What you're doing really when you're making decisions. And even if you make a, quote, a bad decision, it's still a decision. You're still bringing your unconscious, conscious. And that's the point of all this. This is the end result of your psychology. It's just different ways of looking at the same thing, but it all comes down to managing emotions and making decisions, unconscious, conscious. This is what we do here, guys. This is a big deal. As always, meditate on this. We're going to be back next week. We're going to talk about a lot. We're going to talk about defense mechanisms. We're going to get into more specifics of these diagrams. We're going to talk about religion. We're going to talk about conspiracy theories. We're going to talk about, just a lot of love to give, a lot of information to give. Work on your boundary, though, in the meantime. Keep doing this. Keep working on this until you can really crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentations of their women.